voting on the first one. Good evening. This is a meeting of the Athens Board of Zoning Appeals. The time is 7:02 p.m. and the date is May 14th, 2024. At this time, I will call the meeting to order. I am Joe Kraus. I'm the acting chair of the Board of Zoning Appeals tonight, while Rob Del is overseas. The board currently consists of 5 members and 2 alternates. The alternates taking full part in the discussion of becoming a voting member in the absence of a member or when a member abstains for conflict of interest, which we will have tonight. Also present and representing the city is our zoning administrator, Mr. David Riggs, and his lovely hair. There are 2 cases on tonight's agenda for the properties located at 123 Morris Avenue, as well as the second one, which is 28 West Stimson Avenue. The board is required to take, am I doing this right, Ryan?
Yes.
Okay. The board is required to take testimony under oath. Would anyone wishing to speak tonight concerning any item on the agenda please stand? Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you will present to the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? All right. Do you want to, Director Riggs, do you want to provide us with an overview of the rules of the BZA?
Yes, sir.
No? Wait, no, the video will do it? Throwing it to the video. The Athens Board of Zoning Appeals operates according under the following procedure. The chair will name and describe the case. The zoning administrator or secretary will state the basis of the objection and any applicable facts or conditions pertaining to the case. The appellant or their representative will give reason why the appeal should be viewed favorably. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the request will be heard. Anyone wishing to speak in general comment will be heard. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition will be heard. If necessary, the appellant or their representative will offer concluding summary or rebuttal remarks. Testimony from the floor shall be closed. The board will deliberate and render a decision. According to Athens City Code Section 23-07-03B, the board has power to grant variances from the strict application of the code, provided the variance will not be contrary to the public interest. The spirit of the code is observed, public safety and welfare are secured, and substantial justice is done. According to Athens City Code Section 23-07-10C, variances from the code shall not be granted unless the board makes specific findings of fact based directly on the particular evidence presented to it, that the standards and conditions imposed in this title, if applicable, have been met by the applicant. Exceptional circumstances. There are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property in question or to the intended use of the property that does not apply generally to other properties or classes or uses in the same zone. Practical difficulty and undue hardship. Because of exceptional or extraordinary conditions pertaining to the specific piece of property, a literal enforcement of these regulations will result in practical difficulty or undue hardship that is unnecessary to the achievement of public purposes. Preservation of equal property rights. Literal interpretation of these regulations would deprive the appellant of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the same zone and the same vicinity, while a granting of the requested variance will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied to other properties in the same zone and the same vicinity. Minimum variance. The variance granted is the minimum variance required to make possible the reasonable use of the property. Absence of detriment. The authorizing of such variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property and will not materially impair the purpose of the zoning code or the public interest. not a general nature. The condition or situation of the specific piece of property or the intended use of said property for which variance is sought, one or the other or in a combination, is not of so general or recurrent a nature as to make reasonably practicable the formulation of a general regulation for such condition or situation. Any person, resident, or officer, department, or appointed body of the City of Athens, aggrieved by a decision of the board, may petition the Athens County Court of Common Pleas concerning the illegality of the decision. Such petition must be filed within 30 days after the mailing of the decision of the board to the applicant.
That's a good-looking dude. I really did not say who was all here tonight. We have voting members: Kelly Sauber, Aaron Thomas, Ben Lockman, as well as our alternates, Paul Isherwood, as well as Alicia Sweeney, as this is her first case. Welcome aboard. Okay, so the first case that we have tonight, am I doing all right? First case we have tonight is case number 24-02V. The property located at 123 Morris. Matthew Cook is the appellant, where the appellant is requesting a variance from ACC 23-10-01, Table A, to allow 34% building lot coverage, where 30% is the maximum allowed. You guys were very patient and waited for us. I would say just come up, talk to us, and say your name and address. No.
Dr.
Oh, God. Dr. Riggs, please tell us what's going on here.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
The appellant, 123 Morris Avenue, submitted a zoning construction permit request to us for replacing an existing garage and adding a deck. They met all of the requirements, setbacks. They were in the floodplain, so they met all the floodplain requirements, except they didn't meet the minimum or maximum allowed coverage. So they have 34% coverage, where 30 is the maximum allowed. So we had to refuse that,
Right.
and they have come to the board to ask for a variance for that maximum allowed coverage.
Anyone have any questions for him before we hear from the?
No.
Okay. All right. Would you like, now you could come up. Name and where you live.
Matthew Cook. I live at 76 South Shannon Avenue.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Thanks. So yeah, the whole thing we're trying to do here is allow for an accessory structure that exceeds the property coverage allowance by 4%. In addition to going over by 4%, we're moving the building in a little bit because currently the existing garage sits on the city's right-of-way.
Right.
So part of the 4% coverage issue comes from the fact that we're moving off the city's property. And so that would change the coverage to 31%-ish if we stayed on the city's property. It was part of our goal to just keep it on the property. But yeah, and as far as all the other requirements that need to be met, we're well under the impermeable coverage requirements. We're meeting all the setbacks. We have the proper amount of distance, well over the proper amount of distance between structures. We designed the structure specifically to account for floodplain requirements, had a survey done to make sure we had the proper heights and flood vents and all of that. All mechanicals are out of the floodplain. So yeah, the only issue is the lot coverage requirement.
Right. Any questions for the appellant? No. I remember that we had the discussion with the two gentlemen about if this had been in front of the Planning Commission where we were trying to reduce the requirements. Nothing obviously has happened to change that status.
If we get these proposed code changes approved, we're looking at changing the bulk controls in the zoning code, Title 23, and that's gone to Planning Commission, and it'll soon go to City Council for review and recommendation. This would change the lot size, significantly reduce the minimum lot size. It would significantly increase the amount of coverage. I think we're recommending 50% lot coverage instead of 30 now, and 70% for total impervious area coverage. So there's a lot of changes. Setbacks are all going to change and everything. If this goes through, you would see a lot fewer of these type of appellant requests for a variance. And we know that this is probably some of the biggest things we see here in this board is setbacks and coverage requests. And that means that we probably should look at modifying the city code, which is what we're trying to do here.
There's all the different lots in town, from the west side to the east side to the far east side. They all get different sizes.
Yep. Yeah, we wanted to go back, and some of these are legal non-conforming lots. The minimum lot width, for instance, is 66 feet with 8,000 square feet of total lot size. We want to cut that to about half, about 4,000 or 4,500 square feet as the minimum lot size. And then by doing that, we hope that we'll see a lot of infill development, a lot more houses come on the market. We know we've got a housing shortage here in the city of Athens, and we're trying to incrementally move towards fixing those issues with the city. And again, it would help this board as well by reducing the number of variance requests coming to you all.
Okay. Is there anyone else that has any questions for Matt? No? Do you want to talk at all?
Matt said it really well.
It's good enough. It's good enough then. I'm just trying to ask every question I can. Okay. So then I'm closing the testimony from the floor.
Can I speak?
Seriously?
Yes.
Seriously, I just closed the testimony, buddy. Yes, sir. Please come on up.
Sorry for doing that.
So, don't we do,
So my name is John Katowski, and I live at 14 Northwood Drive here in town. And the reason I just came up was to support what Dr. Riggs was saying.
Sure.
With regard to the changes, the bulk changes and other things. As the chair of the Athens City Planning Commission, we approved that to be sent on to City Council for their action, and so they can accept what we sent. They can reject it, or they can seek some modifications. But as Dr. Riggs said, we forwarded those things to City Council for their action, and so I just wanted to support that.
Wait, was I supposed to say his name and address?
He did.
You did? I'm sorry. I'm just not paying attention, I guess. Thank you, but I know as us on the zoning board is what we deal with. Thank you for passing that along. It definitely is something that we think is a need to be done. Okay.
General comments.
no, that was general comments.
That was general comments. Now I close it.
Opposed.
Oh, anyone opposed? Is anyone opposed? Okay then. So now I will close. Now I'm closing testimony from the floor, and the board will now deliberate.
You gotta make a motion.
Well, we deliberate first then.
Okay.
Oh God.
You're doing good. You're doing good.
I don't think so, but we're getting through it. We're working our way down the list. Like Vince Lombardi said, we're matriculating down the field. Okay. So, are there exceptional circumstances for this particular appellant?
Yeah, I mean, it's a common issue.
It's a common issue
It's
that we have seen. I wouldn't say no, but I wouldn't say.
Yeah, I would say it's not particularly exceptional. The thing that verges on exceptional is probably that existing structure is actually on the city right of way.
Right.
And,
Right.
you know,
And that
normally replacing it would be, you know, would be much closer to 30%.
Of course.
Even if we are only talking about 4%.
And that might,
Right.
and so for the next one, which would be practical difficulty and undue hardship, that would apply as well.
Reasonable, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we'll agree with that. What about the preservation of equal property rights?
Well, I think actually for moving it off of the right of way is in favor of that. That makes everybody's property rights better, actually.
Are my comments over?
Yeah.
I also.
Sorry.
It's been, in my opinion, it's been 2 months, you know, the last meeting and this meeting, and no one has come forward to say no, that this is unfair to their property rights, so.
It's also such a small variance request
Yeah.
that the idea that this is creating a massive change, I think it would be hard to say that it's exceptional.
Right, I don't think this one is setting a precedent by any means. Okay. You think that's a plan? Okay. So, and minimum variance, I think Matt very, very well described it as, this is as little as they could do, as far as trying to keep to the 30%.
I think especially as well, if you talk about that, if we said, no, you gotta put it on the right of way, they could get closer to that 30%, well, that would be unreasonable.
Next time you're gonna run the show with
No,
that
no,
wonderful
no.
accent. Who doesn't want to hear that wonderful accent all the time instead of this one?
I like yours, you're doing great.
So I believe absence of detriment, then that sort of would apply to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we would generally,
And then same thing with the non-general
Increasing
nature, it's
access
very
to the right of way.
specific.
Yeah.
Okay, well, as far as meeting those requirements, I think we're okay. Is anyone willing to make a motion?
Make a motion to grant the request for
Yeah.
123 Morris Avenue for variance from ACC 23.10.01, Table A, to allow 34% building lot coverage where 30% is the maximum allowed.
You want
Second.
to second it?
I'll second it.
All right.
And Ben abstain.
Yes,
yeah, I recuse myself from voting this one, so.
you're up.
Okay.
Okay. Is this the point where
Yes.
we want to vote? Okay, so all in favor, if we're good, all in favor of passing the variance, I guess raise your hand. You got it, 5-0. Case matters, I take 5-star reviews at Kraus Running Properties. Lovely dealing with you. Thank you, by the way, for being patient. And good luck. Your contractor is.
All right. Next.
All right, next. Good luck. Good seeing you, Matt. You're welcome. Now that it's over, Matt Cook is fun. Okay, so the second case in front of us is case 2403V at 28 West Stimson Avenue. The appellant is Shelley Lieberman, and she is requesting a variance from ACC 230407, did I say subsection 5? To allow a building or enclosure in which animals are kept 25 feet from an R zone where 200 feet is required, and from ACC 23-10 Table B to allow 6 on-site parking spaces where 11 are required.
Dr. Riggs.
Oh, thank God you said that. Dr. Riggs, thoughts, please.
Correction, I'm not a doctor, so. DR is my first initials, but that doesn't.
Director Riggs.
Thank you. So this is an interesting one. We have a request for a cat cafe, and that doesn't really fit into our code. So as you know, our code's static and things change in our community. So this is kind of a new thing. The only thing we could figure out that would fit here is animal enclosure section of the code. So that's ACC 230407. subparagraph 5, which says that you have to keep those animal enclosures 200 feet from any R zone, and they're 25 feet from an R zone. So this is a request to change the use, to allow this type of use here, and if that gets approved, then they would lose their grandfathering for the existing property, and you'd have to go back and figure the total number of parking spaces required. So they don't meet that now, but they're grandfathered as a legal nonconforming parking spaces. So we had to go and look at that as well. So there's a multi-uses here. So this would be the cafe plus the apartments upstairs. The total of those spaces the total of those parking spaces required for both of those uses is 11. And I think we can get 6 on the site, maybe 7, but they're asking for a variance to allow 6 parking spaces where 11 are required. And that's why you see both of these requests in this variance.
And as far as the parking space issue, the driver for 11 spaces is the number of beds in the...
Yeah, it has to do with the number of units, and then the square footage of the cafe also requires a certain number of spaces. So we looked at both of those.
Do you know how many units?
There, I think, I don't remember. The 4 units? Yeah. They're currently have spaces to park because the property owner actually owns the property behind this, and it's a big parking area, so they get parking back there, but that doesn't, off-site parking doesn't meet the strict requirements of the code.
So the original space was zoned for retail, and what's the new space as far as this?
Cafe, yeah.
The cafe.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the pharmacy.
Yeah, it was the pharmacy, right.
So that's a change of use, and when you have a change of use like that you have to reset the grandfathering for a property.
I know this from residential. With my buildings on Court Street, right, we had this discussion. If we gutted it, then we lose the grandfathered in. Is there anything the appellant would have been able to do with, you said the landlord, the owner of the building, has parking behind.
Yes.
Is there any way to connect it so that would have appeased the city?
It's 2 separate parcels, so although there are ways to get off-site parking approved, so they could have gone that route if they wanted to say, we need 11 spaces, we have these 5 spaces off-site, but then you have to have an agreement with the other property owner that has to be recorded, and
We've done similar things like
Yeah,
that
it's
before.
that's deed restricting. So
Yeah.
this is something that is an option if things didn't work out. Great.
Okay, it's the same property.
Yeah.
Same property owner,
So
yeah.
that actually should make it feasible.
To have an agreement with himself?
Yeah. He would have an agreement with himself where it would be potential something along the lines of providing the parking. This is just my external thoughts. That you provide parking specifically for the apartments and the other thing, and that your space would only,
I mean, that's what it is.
right? Isn't that
Yeah,
the
that's
ideal
currently
world?
what it is.
Yeah.
So if they got it in writing, though,
Well, they could do it 2 ways. They could get the off-site parking approved, or you could allow a variance for the parking spaces if you so
All right, that was
choose.
my next question. If we put a variance for that space,
Then they don't need to do the.
They don't need any of
but
that.
if they come tomorrow to your office and say, we got an agreement with the owner and us that we got these spaces, then they won't even need us to improve the second part.
Correct.
Or they still need 11, they still need 11.
Yes, they still, they need.
What-
still
that
need
is the
the
variance.
11.
What happens if the owner sells the other property?
Well, that's why you have to have it,
So-
recorded so that it's still.
So the variance would still,
Yeah, it would
Yes.
still go with the
So
land.
D-
Director Riggs, on that front, I feel like in the past, we've given some variances that specify that you must provide spaces within a certain radius, and that you have to document it, but it isn't actually a deed restriction, so it could be across the street and it's dead, but the owner has to document that.
Typically, you either have
it.
it deed restricted or you have an agreement recorded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's that it requires agreement recorded.
Yeah.
Is the one that I've seen come through here the most in the past.
An original grandfather variance was for how many spaces?
Well, this actually was probably used before the zoning code came into effect, because that property's been there since
Yes.
before the 60s. So that's how this grandfathering, this legal nonconforming use works, where, this was a use that had been here long before our zoning code became effective, or the changes in the requirements in the zoning code became effective. And that's why they're grandfathered in. They're still be allowed to be used.
So what has triggered the change of use then? Because the pharmacy was also a cafe restaurant. They had retail. And you're going to be a bit of a restaurant of
We gotta
sorts,
bring
or
her
a
up.
cafe. Selling
Does he need to
goods.
bring her up?
Brought up and such. So
Yes.
Yeah, we can, after we're done, yeah.
So what is the actual change of use? Because there are cats involved?
Yeah, it's big. Keeping of animals is what kicks in the change of use. Yeah.
So would this technically fall into the same thing as if they were a boarding kennel?
Yes. Like I said, and our code really doesn't work this very well. If we see more of these, we probably want to consider changing our code to allow these kind of uses. Again, nobody 20 years ago would have thought about this. This is a fairly new idea that's come up, and we like new ideas, but our code is static and doesn't. You got to keep changing that code to keep up with the times.
I think this is also the section that prohibits keeping chickens in the.
There's actually a couple sections that prohibits chickens.
Yeah,
Yes.
but this is one of them. I think.
This is one of them.
that
Yeah.
You have to be at least 200 feet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
What were you talking about, chickens?
yeah,
Yeah, we were-
Question.
we were just talking about chickens.
Maybe you said this already, but what was the calculation of parking spaces needed just for the cafe?
Just for the cafe, it needs, I think, 5 spaces,
Okay.
and the
So they're
apartments
well within
need
that.
6.
Okay.
That's correct, yeah.
All right. Okay, at this time, I'd like to invite the appellant or their representatives to please approach the podium and provide any pertinent testimony or give reason why the request should be viewed favorably. State your name and where you live, please.
Shelley Lieberman. I live on Northwood in Athens. And it's pretty much like what I wrote in my proposal, is that I'm looking to have a cat cafe. I feel like probably the code is there, being concerned about like noise or that sort of thing, and cats are not going to make noise to bother neighbors within 25 feet. I've also already met a number of the people living upstairs who are very excited to have the cat cafe downstairs. And I mean, really, that's kind of it. I don't see it being a real problem to neighbors. I think it'll be a plus for everyone, and the cats are going to be vetted. It's going to be helping adoption. It's going to be helping the community, have another place to go to, and just be a fun place to have in town. Oh, and I've worked with the health department, yes. So the health department, basically the division for the health department, it just has to be a vestibule. So like kind of like a dog park entry where you have 2 doors to get to the cats so the cats can't escape. And we will definitely have that between the food service, whatever that may end up being, to the cats.
So would you like to explain it to the people watching at home?
What a cat cafe is?
Yes.
Yes, please don't bring.
Because somebody's probably wondering like.
That's true, yes.
We
So-
read it, but some
Yeah,
people at home probably watching like.
Okay, yeah, a cat pet cafe, you do not bring your cat to the cat cafe. I've had a few people say that. Cats do not like to travel. So we will be working with probably the Athens County Humane Society, who has adoptable cats who are already vetted, and they will reside in the area that we designate for them in the cafe, and they will be there for. Folks will pay an entry fee, whatever that may be. We haven't decided what that will be, and they can go in and hang out with cats. So I think it'll be a real plus for students in particular who may be missing pets at home, and hopefully, maybe meet their desire for having pets so that they hold off on that until they're more established. And then we will be also, adopting out, the Humane Society will actually be the ones adopting out the cats. And, hopefully finding them wonderful homes that will be long lasting.
So one of the functions will be to place cats from the cafe
Correct.
with people maybe who come and meet them there.
Yes, I
Okay.
think the adoption rate will really increase. I've been researching this for years, and I've gone to visit many, and like one opened in Ohio just last month, and the first day they adopted out, I think it was 13 cats, which is really great. You know,
Is that the one in Zanesville?
that one. I think it is the one in Zanesville. Yeah, because that's the most recent. Yeah.
People
So-
told me about it today when they knew I was doing this.
Oh,
meeting.
okay, yeah. So there's,
Sure.
I think, 4 others in the state of Ohio, and I've really, and I've gone as far as LA because I have family there, and picked up like all the best things to do and all the things to not do.
So it's actually a cafe then. So it's
So
people come in.
I haven't 100% decided like what food situation will be because I'm feeling very overwhelmed to have to learn like a third business. So we could even just have prepackaged food to start, like Crumbs Bakery and that sort of thing, and coffee. So it's not going to be like a big sit down place like outside of where the cats are. There will be some seating, but it's going to mostly be around the cats.
How many cats do you anticipate you would have there at one time?
So it does depend on what we end up doing with the architect as far as what works with fire code, which I'm only now just finding out about. And so I foresee it being probably 12 to 18,
Oh, wow.
something like that. And we do not have a cat shelter in Athens, which is a
Oh, no, I think this is,
abomination. And, they only have fosters. So,
I think you are doing a
yeah,
service to the community
thank you.
with this.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions for her?
I think I asked mine. Yeah.
Okay. Is anyone wishing to speak in favor of this? Is there anyone here?
Yes.
Oh, yes, sir. Please approach the bench. Podium, sorry, podium.
Once again, John Katowski, 14 Northwood Drive. Mr. Chair and members of the board. Yeah, I wish to speak in general comment as well as in support of this. And I will say this, my wife is works or volunteers at the dog shelter, and she walks dogs and spends time with them, and I listen to her a lot. She talks about how many dogs are coming in there, that are just abandoned within the county and the city, and it's just devastating, the numbers of pets that are dogs that are released, and as a bicycle rider, I'm amazed at the number of feral cats and stray cats that are just running around free, trying to hunt and live. And so I just think this is a wonderful step in the right direction to try to find a way to take care of, in this case, the cats a little better, and also find placements for them. I'm totally 100% in favor of this, and I look forward to having something like this in our community.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate your testimony. That was in favor, though. What about the in general
He
nature?
said general comment too.
Damn it. All right. Okay.
Opposition.
Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Okay. Now I am closing testimony from the floor, and the board will now deliberate. Thoughts?
I think my read is that, this part of the code was not particularly intended for this kind of thing, actually, right? It was not envisioning cat cafes when it was written, and is somewhat therefore onerous for this application. I think my question is mainly around, the parking.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's already being shifted off-site feels like we should just codify that
Yeah.
into, like we have with other variances, of similar variety, particularly since there's, the parking option, right there that's already being used anyway.
It seems like this won't dramatically change from what was previously the norm to the community anyway. So
Yeah.
it's not a change.
Yeah, and then that like kind of protects, like what I wouldn't want is that, you have, at some point in the future, you end up with no spots for the people who want to hang out with kitties.
Right.
Because they're all residents that are parking there for whatever reason.
Right now, residents are off-site, right? So that leaves.
Well, they're just,
Above.
offsite is, because of the way the hill is
Yeah.
there, they're just on
Behind
the backside of the property.
Does anyone feel as if the parking spaces, the 6 to 11, is a huge issue as far as long-term?
Well, what
Considering it.
Director Riggs said was, it would be required to have 5 if it weren't for the units. So I think what I would suggest is that we adjust what we approve, in that we approve the change of use as is, and that we approve a variance that requires off-site parking
So
for the residential units.
So with that being said, just from the stuff I've had to do with my own properties, when this was a much more strict issue, when I had to get actual deed restriction on Carpenter, what if, and again, mine was involving 2 or 3 different parties. This is all just one owner. If there had been some type of, should we ask for like something of an agreement where it's in writing, where there's a dedicated 5, not deed restricted, but just that the business is renting 5 or 6 spaces from the lot on a year-to-year basis, and the agreement is in place? Is that something that?
Yeah, and I think the property owner would be, he's
Happy to do it,
he'd be
right?
happy to do that, yeah.
So what do you guys think of that? That if like with the conditional use, that Shelley would have to go back to the owner who's already agreed to this, and basically they put it in writing, like an agreement where there'd be 5 or 6, whatever dedicated spaces, and that would sort of be on the file. I think that would.
Director Riggs.
Yeah.
Like he already has them.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
So
it's
already
just
in
documenting it.
Yeah, we're just talking about the the documentation of it, sort of, so that it would be like on the up and up type of thing.
So they have 5 spaces more than they really need for both properties for the owners?
So they actually,
residential
for both of these uses of this one building, they need a total of 11 parking spaces. They do have 6 up front, and they do have enough parking spaces for all of the apartments on the next lot.
Right.
Just our code doesn't allow that. That's the problem.
So we're not.
So
we're not
you
gonna
could
be-
you could do this by saying, just have the property owner have an agreement that says, I agree to provide whatever number of parking spaces.
And then we grant you the
And we'll grant
variance.
you the variance, yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Director Riggs, in the past when we've done that, is there a radius? I feel like
There used to be.
It used to be 250 feet.
Yes, there
Was
used to be.
was what it was,
I think
but that.
in 2011 or 2021, I'm sorry, we changed a lot of the parking regulations to make it, the required parking spaces, the number smaller, and to allow for parking if you have public transit nearby, and so we've done a lot to help reduce the parking requirements.
And so we
make it
don't have
easier.
that radius
Right, that
requirement
doesn't
anymore.
exist
Okay,
anymore,
great.
yes.
So it sounds like the general theme of the code changes in the last several years have been to move more to accommodating this kind of a relationship anyway.
Yeah, and reducing the basic requirement.
The old the old code killed many acquisitions.
We saw people
Street is what it
people
did.
getting spaces at the fairgrounds.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and now it's a legal aspect. Okay.
A couple of last discussions we've had have discussed if property owners don't have all the parking they need for their housing, then the market's going to correct that issue anyways. If people want parking to go along with the housing, then they might not choose that as their home.
Right.
Same with the small business. If she doesn't have enough parking in this location for her customers, she'll be the one to suffer if that ends up being an issue.
That was the idea of the code changes, that the developers or the businesses know better than the city how many parking spaces they need. Why should we be telling them how many spaces they actually need?
We had that with Menards when they came, because they wanted,
Yeah.
the city wanted them to take the whole lot, and make it parking spaces, and it's like, we don't need that much. We
They don't
just
need-
need,
They know better.
right.
So, Director Riggs, do you have any guidance on how we would state that in a variance, the documentation requirement?
If you just say an agreement, I'll make sure that it gets put in. I'll check with our legal people to make sure that that becomes a legal document.
Five
Yes.
off-site parking
Yes.
spaces. Okay.
Do we want to run through the?
The other part is the first part. Are you okay with?
I mean, I don't. I think
Dave, I have
that's.
another
I'm
question.
totally fine with that.
Okay.
On the parking requirement based on
Okay,
square
I just
footage
want,
of
I
the
knew we
business,
talked so much about the
is that
second
based
part.
on the customer area or the
No,
entire
we-
interior
we
square
want
footage of
anything
that
on
business?
I mean, I think.
No, we
you
don't
ask
do the
rest of
entire
board,
square
I mean,
footage.
Yeah,
I don't
we
have. I don't have.
we can bring it up on the general discussion.
And sometimes we'll do the number of chairs or number of
Okay.
seats.
Gotcha.
Okay, so let's go through our list. Are there exceptional circumstances in this?
Are we talking about the parking or the cats?
Oh, shit.
Both at the same time.
Yeah.
Will the cats have to use the parking? No, okay, I'm getting,
Are we, so are we gonna go through,
Let's do all cats. Answer all the questions for the cats and then answer
and then all the,
questions.
and then all the questions about parking?
Yeah.
yeah.
I would just do both.
Do both?
Do both at the
Don't go
same
through
time.
it
Don't listen to
Just me.
Okay.
I don't want to go through this as many,
I'm with
any
you.
more times than I have to.
Okay. So are there any exceptional circumstances with this in regards to the element of the enclosure in which animals are kept 25 feet from an R zone or from the parking element? Anybody?
I see the language.
I mean, it's basically like a boarding kennel, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Similar to a boarding kennel. But is there a limitation on private residences, how many cats you're allowed to have in your home?
what is it, right?
So then,
mean-
I'd say this one's a no.
Yeah.
I would say that this is unique in that it is the first of its kind in this city, and so, and I would say that's in some ways exceptional, right? Like this is the very first time that we've ever had a cat cafe
Yeah.
Yeah.
proposed, and so
It's not like there's now
So
gonna
I
be
think-
20 other cat cafes
I think you're
in
right. There's not,
Cincinnati.
we're not
Maybe.
having an issue to the preservation of the other cat cafe property rights.
Yeah.
And practical difficulty and undue hardship. Do any of you think that this is the minimum variance? That, I would think, might,
I think for the cats,
This,
yeah, it's fine.
We can't move the building.
And we're talking about requiring 5 more parking spaces from the same owner on adjacent property.
sure, we're
I
asking
think
him,
that's reasonable.
we're asking him to actually dedicate it,
yeah,
you know, for us. So, and I think that is the minimum thing.
I would say with that change, it is the minimum.
Yeah.
As written, it is not quite the minimum. It's,
Okay,
I agree.
okay, good. And the same thing with the absence of detriment. I mean, this is,
Well,
with,
no
with
one-
the change, I think it's
And
an,
no one showed up to say, I don't want this next.
and this is definitely of a very specific
yeah.
yes.
And I will say that I don't think that our only test of absence of detriment should be people showing up.
Sure,
to
yeah,
100%, but it is. I think it is it's a good positive indicator that there may be some detriment if they do show up.
Yeah.
And it sure feels like this is something that would be a,
Well, yeah, and
Asset
I'll
to
say
the
that
city.
like for I've talked to several people about this, and I only got positive
Yeah.
people or people
Yeah.
saying shrugging, right? Like they either didn't care or they were very excited about it.
I think many people are aware that we have a serious issue with
And it's filling up an empty
animals in
building.
the city that need to be addressed. Okay, all right, so with that being said, does anyone want to,
I'll make a
Make a
motion
motion.
since I've talked a lot already.
thank God,
I will make a motion that for the property at 28 West Timpson Avenue, case 2403V, where the appellant is requesting a variance from ACC 23.04.07 subparagraph 5 to allow a building or enclosure in which animals are kept 25 feet from an RR zone where 200 feet is required, and from ACC 23.10, Table B, to allow 6 on-site parking spaces and 5 off-site parking spaces where 11 on-site parking spaces are required, that we grant those variances.
Anyone want to second it?
I'll second that.
Kelly will second it. All right, let me do. And Kelly.
For this one, I will be voting, so.
Okay.
I think.
So, we're gonna, everyone that is willing to vote for this?
Is that subject to the getting the written agreement? Does that
Yes.
have to be in the motion?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the offsite. That's the
right, so
offsite portion
we're gonna
is-
vote on it, but you gotta get the thing in writing if we pass it and give it to non-Dr. Riggs. Okay, everyone in favor of granting the variances, both, and one being a conditional use, raise your hand by saying aye.
Aye.
You got it, 5-0, ma'am. And good luck to you. I think you're really gonna do a good service for us. Okay, you're gonna try.
Thanks, Shelley.
Thank you.
And thank you for being patient. We
We gotta
gotta do the meeting, the minutes.
I should have asked you, are you
Yeah,
going
we
to
got
be running
Okay.
your retail shop over there?
be it.
That's cool. Yeah. Right.
Okay, so for the last thing, for other business, the disposition of minutes from April 9th, 2024. Usually, our old esteemed colleague Kay Towsley was the one that we'd asked to read this. Did anyone get to look at it?
Yes,
Any issues?
I was.
Sounded accurate.
Sounded accurate to me too, Kelly. You wanna do a motion to
I don't
approve
like
the
doing
minutes?
motions.
Paul, do it.
Motion to approve the minutes from the April 9th, 2024 meeting.
Were you here?
No.
Yeah, but that's okay, right?
Not yet, for a motion, I think that
Yeah,
is.
somebody else
He
said
just
yes.
can't, but only people that are here can vote to approve.
Yes, I wasn't here.
Yeah, but you can second the
Yes,
motion.
yes,
You can
yes.
second- yeah. Yeah, this is fun. You're in second motion.
But it's only you and
It was the three of us. So you-
yes.
I vote
wasn't
yes to
here.
approve the minutes.
I would
So it's the
make-
two of us.
Oh, it's just the two of
yeah.
us. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
because Kay is no
2-0.
longer here. Rob's out.
You might have to, because I think 3 is.
Yeah, I think you
quorum.
need three.
So I think you'll have to
Okay.
re-approve.
With that
Next
being
meeting.
said, we're gonna
Motion to
table this.
table.
Motion is tabled.
I think it was you and Rob.
Yeah,
And
you
it
need
was
Rob.
Kay's-
Me,
it was
Rob,
Kay's last
and
meeting.
Kay, yeah.
She came in just for the graciousness of.
She
her.
did. Okay. Well, we're gonna end the meeting tonight, and we will table the minutes until the next meeting, which is in June. All right.
Tuesday.
Everyone have a lovely evening and have a great summer.